This was truly shocking. I mean, who did we veto the resolution condemning Russia with? Our good friends, North Korea, Russia, Belarus, Syria, the Central African Republic, Nicaragua. I won't go on. Even China and Iran abstained from that vote. So Ronald Reagan would be turning in his grave, as would many others. It's really quite remarkable. And if you think of what the U.S. has stood for, for the past 80 years, since the end of World War II, through the Cold War, through the post-Soviet era, it's quite remarkable that we veto a resolution that condemns the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
What should Marco Rubio do?
I think he's in a very difficult position. We know what he has said before he became Secretary of State about Russia, but right now, all of the officials in the Trump administration are repeating the same line. It's complicated. Russia was provoked. So, if he wants to stay in his job, he presumably has to repeat those lines too.
Angela, you mentioned 80 years of precedent, U.S. policy vis-a-vis the former Soviet Union and Russia. Should we be surprised that this has changed literally on a dime and we've had no real, opposition from anywhere in the U.S. government to this policy? Should we be surprised that it changed so quickly?
I think we should be surprised by the rapidity. I mean, we knew from President Trump's first term that he admires Putin, that he wanted to do a deal with Russia. But to have this happen so quickly within a month of him coming to power and with everyone, the top officials in his administration, repeating this line, we should be. Now, there are Republicans in Congress who have pushed back against this, but there are not that many of them. And I think, we have to wait and see whether there's going to be more opposition to this line. The Kremlin is delighted. I was just reading the remarks of the press secretary, Dmitry Peskov. Finally, the United States has seen sense and has understood, what the real situation is.
I think of At Dawn We Slept, the failure of our intelligence of Pearl Harbor. In 1941, Angela Stent, we were sobered by the failure of our intelligence with the collapse of the Soviet Union. Would you suggest that we have any clue what's going on at the Kremlin or within Mr. Putin's orbit?
I mean, I think we have some clue. We know that they are absolutely delighted about what's happened recently. They're even talking about that publicly. We have a pretty good idea that they're not interested in a peace settlement in Ukraine, but they're certainly interested in improved ties to the U.S. Let's restore relations. Let's have a summit. Let's have President Trump visit for Victory Day, May 9th, 80 years since the end of World War II, visit. So that we know. Do we know what goes on in the very inner circles? Of course not. But we can gauge some things by what they've said.
This is why we love having Dr. Stent on, folks. Could you imagine the President of the United States in Moscow for those celebrations of Russian might in May?
Yep.
I've never once framed that,
never had that
as
vision in my
Angela
head.
Stent only can do.
Angela, what do you...
I can. Yep, I can.
Angela, what do you think the response should be from rest of the world? I'll just leave it there, rest of the world, as it relates to this changing U.S. position vis-a-vis Russia.
Well, we've just had President Macron here. We have Prime Minister Starmer coming tomorrow. The Europeans are really trying to push back. President Macron did a good job, a valiant job of trying to persuade President Trump that, we have to work together and that, the U.S. isn't getting stiffed by Ukraine. He in fact corrected Trump about loans versus money given to Ukraine. I mean, the Europeans are trying their best, and they've come to realize that they're going to be alone in this. If they want to support Ukraine going forward, they're going to have to do it without the United States. Now, for those countries that abstained, which is a large number yesterday in the General Assembly, they're just going to shrug and say, this is a European conflict and it really doesn't touch us that much. But certainly the Europeans, and I would say our Asian allies, are very concerned.